Committee Room 29, sound. 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 Committee Room 29, Sound.
Good morning and welcome to the Infrastructure Committee. Just to note, any members who are in the public gallery, they can use mobile devices, but they are not allowed to take photographs or video the proceedings. I will give you a brief overview of today's committee business and then we will proceed through the agenda. This morning we will receive some oral evidence from departmental officials on DFI's consultation using a mobile phone while driving and a consultation around changing the law. Consider one proposal, an SL, for a statutory rule that is subject to Assembly procedure, and 4 proposals that are not subject to Assembly procedure. And finally, 4 statutory rules that are not subject to Assembly procedure. And if members are content, I will proceed through the agenda. And item 1 is apologies. I have an apology from Cahill. Is anyone else aware of any apologies?
Justin will be delayed. Yeah.
Justin will be delayed, and I believe the Deputy Chair is online this morning. So that is fine. And I know that Peter is on his way down. Okay, item 2 is declaration of interests. Just to remind members that they declare interests as and when we arrive at them, and some members have already done so. Item 3 is chairperson's business. People may or may not be aware that the Minister put out a press release last week praising the department and road crews for managing to do 10,000 pothole repairs in 8 weeks. Obviously, the Minister got an additional £40 million towards the tail end of last year, and a fairly celebratory press release issued from the department. I think the committee would want to note that every pothole repaired is progress. However, quite a clever journalist from the Irish News had a story on Friday. He did a wee bit of math around this and realised that if the Minister continues on this pace, somehow the department will fill 15,000 less potholes than it managed to do last year. And that is a little bit of concern. I see some committee members looking slightly queried on it. Essentially, the efficiency rate that the Minister was praising would result in 15,000 less potholes being repaired if that pace continues. It's just to draw members' attention to the fact that DFI do have the largest budget that it's ever had. However, if the pace that's indicated over the tail end of last year, the last financial year, continues, it would actually manage to repair less potholes in this financial year. And that's a slight cause for concern for me. Just in terms of this, it may be worth writing to the department, just asking, first of all, are they aware that the efficiency rates of potholes repairs, as indicated by the Minister, would actually result in less potholes being repaired in this financial year? And also perhaps asking for a breakdown of the additional £40 million that the Minister got. That was about 34 in monitoring, just from memory, and about 6 because the Enniskillen bypass, that 6 million got passed back to the Finance Minister because it was not proceeding, and then got reallocated back to the department for, as far as I'm aware, road maintenance. So, do members have any comments on that, Harry?
Yes, Chair. I think definitely worth asking the question. I think now is the time to check up if we're up to pace, and if we can keep up the pace. We certainly don't want to get into the position where we were in last year. So I think now is the time to do all we can. I believe the Minister is doing all she can, but just to check up the numbers. I mean, have there been less reported? Are there less potholes out there at the minute? Are there maybe more extreme potholes? Have they been deeper? You know, things like that would be worth asking. Mm-hmm. But now's the time to really catch up and get our roads. We're not going to get every road resurfaced, but if we can certainly get the repairs done to a high standard, rolled nice in when the temperature's up, hopefully they'll last a bit longer, but do all we can while we have the sunshine, because that's the time when to do the repairs and they're longer lasting.
Okay, no, that's fine. Anyone else on?
Go ahead, I'm
sorry.
I don't mind.
We'll take. In fairness, we'll take Andrew first, because
No, just again, I think I think the chair, you've highlighted relatively good concerns regarding the numbers. I think it's, we probably all at various degrees write to the department for numbers, and it can be sometimes a bit difficult to get clear numbers. You're right, we've got a draft strategy, we've got 40 million, we've had extra money set aside, and we just need to know if this is going the right direction or not. So I would certainly support that. And again, just anecdotally, I had a friend from up the country cycling through Bryansford, who stated as a cyclist it is the worst state of road he's been on. Yeah. So again, I'm sure we could all have anecdotal notes to that throughout the consistencies, but again, it is worth bearing in mind.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Andrew. Stephen?
Thank you, Chair. No, I would just echo your points around, I think we do need to raise this with the Minister. I think our roads are still in a crisis. I think we've seen that day and daily. I've seen it this morning on my journey here. We've seen the article in the Irish News that talked about that the Minister is actually doing less with more money.
Yep.
So I think this is very, very alarming, and I think it's confirmation of what we already know, that there is that roads crisis and a pothole pandemic which is still not being resolved by this Minister. As I mentioned last week, we believe the road maintenance strategy, the draft strategy, doesn't go far enough, and I think we do need to see that action. There's a recent poll, Lucid poll talk, 38% of NI drivers have experienced vehicle pothole damage. So again, I think that reinforces what we know around the poor condition of our roads network. So, we need to see action and not excuses from the Minister, certainly. And I think I echo your points about writing again.
Okay. That's fine. Alicia?
And I would just preface it by saying you can't believe all that you read, and at times there are stories are printed. It's interesting to hear just maybe what is underlying truth in relation to it. So it's welcome to have a restatement possibly by the Minister in terms of strategy at the present time. And I know I've had actually a meeting just with road service only last week in the Oma area. And a lot of work has been carried out, and I have to say there's a very visible improvement on many of the roads that I travel on, and I travel a long distance and on many different roads and even access my work here in Stormont. So again, too, is to say that people can very often turn a good news story into a bad news story quite easily, by quoting, we'll say, stats or the likes of it. But at the same time, I think an update from the Minister would be welcome.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you for that, Militia. I think we will certainly write to the Minister. As Stephen was talking there, I was just thinking of old economics series. Apparently, Andrew actually did A-level economics. Andrew, you told me yesterday. I think we're not going to stray into economics here too fully, but I think the definition of inefficiency is lesser outputs with greater inputs. I think that's actually the economic definition of inefficiency. I suppose look, the crews themselves, as Militia has said, the crews themselves are obviously working very hard, and it's none of this is a criticism of DFI staff. We all know people in our own area who are working to do this. The committee will not belie the fact that potholes are being repaired. We welcome that, and that's very, very important. I think what the committee is interested in is, in particular, what the Minister has said in terms of how many potholes have been repaired in an 8-week period, and whether that is in fact the case, that if this pace continues, the reality would be that the department repairs less potholes than it was doing last year, even though they had less money last year. That would be a bit of a concern, and it wouldn't have been highlighted to me had DFI not put out a press release sort of self-praising themselves for the speed and efficiency of these 10,000 repairs, and for it not for an on the button journalist from the Irish News. So look, I'm quite happy to park it there. Do you want to just go over, Michael, what we agreed there, or what we suggest to agree?
So from what I heard, Chair, the members asked was to draw the Minister's attention to the Irish News article on the rate of pothole repair.
Yep.
That it was stating that the rate would actually be less than last year.
Yep.
And to comment on that.
Okay.
If members are content.
Yep. Members content? Yep.
Can we just get steer from the Minister on the rate of repair of potholes, and will the potholes be repaired before the bad weather comes? Because the rate of repair doesn't give me any confidence driving around the roads of South Armagh. It's pothole ridden and it's unsafe, and it's causing serious damage to cars, and it's just not good enough.
So you missed, and I appreciate you came a little bit late just to the first item of Chair's business, Justin, and you're very welcome. We did spend a little bit of time there. And I'm not sure if you saw the Irish News article that was published last week, which reflected on the department's own press release celebrating 10,000 pothole repairs in 2 months, given the additional £40 million that the Minister got towards the tail end of the last financial year. And some math was applied to the figures and found out that if that rate, which the department was, there's a little bit of praise in it, would actually result in 15,000 less potholes being repaired in this year than there would have been last year. And so we're going to write to the Minister along those lines. Did you catch Justin's?
Yes.
Yep.
The rate of repair at the moment, and whether potholes, or the extent to which potholes will be repaired by the time the bad weather comes.
Yeah. Sorry, Justin, go ahead.
Self-praise was not merited.
Just in terms of, if we could ask as well, just to confirm that the Minister did get £40 million from those two sources, which was monitoring and reprofiling of Enniskillen bypass money, and a breakdown of how that was spent, I think would be useful, just to check that was where that money went to. Michael, our committee, Stephen?
Just to add briefly, I suppose, just on the weather point, I do think that needs to be reiterated within the letter. You know, repairing potholes are often temporary in the winter weather, so now is the time from now on to really try and get a grip of this issue. But I think we cannot go without, goes without saying, you know, the roads are still at a crisis point. I firmly believe that. I seen it this morning on my road over here, you know, and I think I would like the committee to recognise that and put that in the letter to the Minister, that we are still dealing with a roads crisis, and the Minister, you know, to date hasn't shown, you know, enough action resourcing her section offices adequately to really get on top of this problem.
Okay, I'm not sure we'll get complete committee agreement maybe to go along those lines, but I want to bring Militia in, who's indicated there. Militia.
I just make a point that we keep using this terminology, the roads are the crisis point.
They are.
Particular roads, maybe, and I know that within every constituency, I'm sure that people come along and they could identify a particular road, and maybe it's down the list in terms of priorities as far as road service and that is concerned. But I have to say as well too, and I reiterate it again, that I have only but experienced a great improvement in a lot of the roads within my own area. And in particular, I'm referring there to the A5, where there's a very, very major problem between Omagh and Newton Stewart at the time. And that has been addressed effectively by the department. And I'm sure the same thing has happened in a lot of other areas as well too, that you have seen an improvement in roads in general, but in particular roads you're always going to have, let's say, a problem, or it might be a whole lot further down the line before they actually get to resolve it.
Michael? Yeah, happy enough. Okay. We'll park that one. The only thing I have in Chair's business is, first of all, just to thank members for coming along yesterday to the stakeholder event that we're having on planning and the inquiry. So I know members popped in, did their best. I did note with a smile that just as we were about to start the event, the bell went off and we abandoned all the folk that we had invited along to go and vote for the better part of 50 minutes. But our incredible committee staff did a brilliant job in terms of keeping the event going and pulling in the evidence from those stakeholders. I just want to extend my thanks to all the stakeholders who came along yesterday to have a chat with us, to give evidence around planning. It was, I felt, incredibly useful, very honest, and that will be fed back in. I assume we'll get something back next week in terms of a bit of a feedback as the committee staff compile some reports around that. I just want to give members the chance if they want to comment on the event yesterday. I'll take Stephen and then Harry.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I thought it was a useful event, and it was, a good attendance of the sector that are at the front line, professional people that are dealing with these issues day and daily. And I think again it highlighted to us that there are major issues within our planning system, a major need for improvement at every level, including particularly the regionally significant developments, which I know were our key interests yesterday. But it was certainly very interesting to hear from people, including the Planning, Appeals Commission, and different councils as well, and the private sector as well. So I think it was particularly useful. But again, it highlights the job of work that the committee has to do in monitoring planning and trying to push for improvement in the process as well. And I think again there's the opportunity for the Minister to get a grip of the planning process as well, and deliver improvements that are greatly needed for the economy and for Northern Ireland as a whole.
No, absolutely, Stephen. Thank you, Harry.
No, just to say thanks to the staff and Michael for stepping up. I mean, although I apologise for not being able to be there for all the meeting, we know committee business or assembly business does come first, so yes, we were called down. But I do, Chair, hope that the information gleaned was useful. So, yep, thank you.
Militia?
And again, I thank Stephen for reminding me the meeting was actually happening.
No problem.
And
Militia will always look after
and, unfortunately,
cross-party working, Militia.
yeah,
you
that's
say?
right.
you got fed and watered.
We don't fall out with everything. No. But in particular, again, I found it very, very useful. In fact, whenever they were summarised at the end of the meeting, because, like Harry, again, too, because the votes happening in the chamber, we missed quite a part of the discussion and so on. But again, too, they were highlighting many of the issues that we probably are aware of that are there. And I think in particular, again, too, in relation to the likes of JRs and all the rest of it, and how it can sort of impede, we'll say, development of the likes of it, of the economy in general. So very, very interesting and worthwhile exercise.
Good. Yeah, I felt it was real value, and we're going to stay focused on this. We're going to keep it time-bounded, and we certainly hope to get a committee report, albeit a short one perhaps, and a committee motion before close of play for summer recess. So that's all Chair's business. Draft minutes are on page 7 of our meeting of the 29th of October, 29th of April. And I just need to seek agreement that members are content with the minutes, that they are true and accurate, and if so, I will sign the minutes. Everyone happy? Okay. Okay, duly signed. Matters arising. Take members to page 17, which is a clerk's memo on the SUDS bill deliberations, just to advise members that there will be further deliberations at next week's meeting on that. Again, maybe just to flag up that in less than 8 weeks' time, not only will we be in recess, but the SUDS bill will have left this committee, and we will have considered clause by clause report on that. Again, just to say to members that over the next couple of weeks, we probably do have to come to some at least indications as to where everyone is on that bill. We will do some more of that in closed session next week, but just to make people aware that that clock is ticking. Just on that, Michael, have we had anything back from the department regarding?
Not yet on those two key clauses.
Yeah,
so that's one of the reasons for deliberating in detail next week, if members are content to do that. So we have something meaty to deliberate on.
And when did we ask for the department's view on that? 'Cause it strikes me that it was essentially it was a while ago. So have you any indications as to when they rewrote to the department just regarding that? It's okay.
I will check that.
Okay, no, it's fine. So, again, my clear sense on legislation travelling through a committee and the general process of it is that it probably does best whenever the department does, let's call it expeditiously engage with the committee, and the longer they wait, in terms of giving us feedback as to the department's thoughts on the committee's view, makes the process a little more rocky. But the ball is firmly in the court of DFI at the minute. So also then, just taking members to page 22, there is the clerk's memo on the Reservoirs Act 2015. Members will be aware that we took some evidence on that last week, and also there is considerable evidence that was taken previous to me taking over as committee chair. Outstanding issues are highlighted in the summary, and just to ask members, if, having considered the summary, is there any additional information that they need or that they require? So we're on page 22, and the key questions really are on, well, that looks like page 25, but it's page 3, I think, of the paper from the clerk, bullet points 9 to 13.
It's helpful just to remind members, Chair.
Yes, Mike.
Just so that the key issue is that there'll be standards that will be required to be upheld by reservoir owners. Some of those owners will probably not be in a position to be able to pay for the standards they're required to keep up to. And there isn't a guarantee that the grant scheme provided for in the bill, in the Act, to be commenced, would cover all the repairs. So that's the key issue. And one consequence of that may be that reservoir owners will simply drain their reservoirs, and with the environmental impacts of that. So that's really the conundrum that members may wish to ponder.
It's a pretty good summary. Essentially, the department, in terms of its consultation, is offering 10,000, I think was the figure, is that right? Yeah, £10,000. That will be an assessment that will be carried out on mid and high. The problem, as Michael just highlighted, is that if that assessment is done, and that will be paid for essentially by the department, the result of that might be, actually, you've got a problem there. I think the issue that the committee has to get its head around is, when I say problems, some of these problems would be quite expensive to fix problems. And just to give an example, a charity, maybe an angling club, would not have the £500,000 or £3 million perhaps to fix. As opposed to fish, they certainly do a lot of fishing, but maybe not fix that problem that has been identified through the grant scheme. Militia.
Just on that, and it is in terms of the Reservoir Act, we've received a lot of information, say, to date, and I totally recognise your comment there as well, too, Chair, in relation to, we'll say, what is essentially a financial issue in many respects, and what budgets that will be available, we'll say, in order to help to address any concerns that individuals have. But just as we had highlighted, we'll say, in respect of roads, the danger of roads, and in respect of the Reservoir Act, and that as well too, what we are talking about here is the danger that it actually has the potential to create, we'll say, for wider communities and the likes of it as well, in the event of there being any sort of unforeseen sort of situation where, let's say, a dam busts or the likes of that. So that it is important that we clarify for ourselves, is there any other additional information that we need before we actually progress this whole situation, because I think that it is imperative that it does progress and that we start to move towards, we'll say, the kernel of the whole issue in itself.
Yep, no, that's fine. I'll take any other views on it. Andrew?
Thank you, Chair.
You've got a few dams in your area, do you?
Do actually, yeah.
Yep.
Being the Mourns, a lot of reservoirs. Just recalling back, this has been talked about and all the issues that are raised with it. And I'm just also very conscious that at various times this has been taken in committee, if that makes sense. So I don't want to stray anywhere that it shouldn't be. So, but can we at some stage maybe quantify that, or do we know how many that is, if that makes sense? Again, I understand the issues around it, and I'm conscious of the issues around it, and again, we don't want to see unforeseen environmental issues of reservoirs being dammed. Likewise, we don't want to see, I can't remember the name of it, but we saw a number of years ago the reservoir in England that broke, so we understand the needs for the engineering reports and what have you. But it's just, I mean, can we maybe get further information as to what number of reservoirs maybe aren't going to be able to cover this, if that makes sense? Sorry.
Yeah, so
if it's helpful for members just to remind them, we did receive a list of high, medium and low risk reservoirs last year. And do you remember we had a closed session looking at confidential information around the possible impacts of any of those failing? But we can send the list to members.
That'd be useful.
That we had the high, medium and low.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, and I
reservoirs.
do remember it says.
Yeah, the information we don't have is the department can't calculate how much it would cost to repair each of the reservoirs until they've been inspected.
Yeah, which is kind of fair enough.
Yeah.
Anyone else on this in terms of information additional? I think that's very useful, and I wasn't here whenever it was discussed. I haven't been cited on that, so I'd certainly like to see that. Anything else people want to raise on this one? Okay, well, that's useful. Good point from Andrew. We'll get that recirculated. And we will consider this going forward, if members are just content on that. Item 6 is correspondence at page 26, and at page 36. In fact, the table's at 26, and what we will do is I will take people through anything that is of note. I flick through it here. There we go. So page 26 is the correspondence memo, and I just want to pull up a couple of things on this. There's not a massive amount this week, which is quite nice. Page 36 is correspondence from the Finance Committee regarding a call for evidence on the Marriage and Civil Partnership Bill. Look, we mainly potholes and roads and planning and so forth, but if committee are happy enough that we reply to the Finance Committee and say we don't have any particular views on the Marriage and Civil Partnership Bill. It's not really cutting into our area, I wouldn't say too much in terms of varies. Militia?
Sorry, Chair, you moved very quickly through there. Just in terms of the graduate driving licence.
Oh, I'll come back. I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Sorry, apologies. No, what I'll do is I'll pick up a couple. We'll get to the end, and then anyone can come in on any item at all, and then we'll sort of note the rest if that's okay. I certainly wasn't jumping past. So are we content? No view on the Marriage and Civil Partnership Bill. Committee happy enough for that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, it's fine. So we have also some core in from Jim Shannon, highlighting, and I think this is a great name, the Orient Express, which is not in my constituency. It's a neighbouring constituency in Strangford, and a request for assistance on Northern Ireland water objection. Look, I don't want to get into particular detail on this as it's fairly specific. It does highlight a more general issue that this committee has been scrutinising in terms of wastewater connections. You will note there on page 61 the core that has come in separately as committee chair. I should also say that Kelly Armstrong, MLA, had sent me core on it as well. It's sitting there, and it probably does give a real life example of the impact that not being able to connect businesses and households in terms of their wastewater and the systemic problems that we have there are having on real society. and this is ongoing. We know this has impact on 15,000 homes in Northern Ireland. This is just one example of a business. I'll take any views. I mean, my general view on this would be we send it just to the department and ask for not only something on this, but also on an update on how many. Do they know if any other businesses are struggling specifically with this, Justin?
We get an update based on that issue whereby businesses cannot access the wastewater treatment network, which is stymieing development, stymieing the housing, stymieing our economy. Just an update on how successful the three-pronged approach has been to date.
Okay.
Just to remind members, this was raised last week, and the committee staff were to check that we hadn't written to that already. There is a letter. We were going to put it in the packs for next week when we're deliberating on the bill, specifically on SUDS, if members are content with that. Yep, it's okay. Harry?
Just basically, if we can do as a letter us and raise with the minister, so if we do what you're going to do, Chair,
okay.
That's good.
Everyone happy enough with that?
Can I just check what members would like that letter to say?
So we're going to send it to the department and ask for an update on that particular case. I suspect they'll refer us to Northern Ireland Water to see whether or not that could be resolved. And I guess wider than that, an update. Do the department know how many businesses are in a similar situation across Northern Ireland?
Just basically if solutions could be raised to enable the business to proceed. Sure,
we have got a range of other core. I'll take it to 217, which is a report from IMTAC on surveys of blue badge use in Belfast City Centre, which was done in November 2025. Very comprehensive study. And I, on that item, would just like to seek committee agreement to write to the department regarding consideration of including blue badge parking in the Eastern Transport Plan. If committee are agreed on that. Yeah, Peter's nodding. Great. And those are all my items. I'm going to go to Militia first, and he's, I think, going to take us to probably GDAs, which are on page 32. Militia.
Yeah, it's just in relation to the graduate driving licence, and we know just how important that is. And again, too, in terms of road safety and the likes of it, that I think we're all in agreement there that it's an excellent development in every respect. So we'd just like clarity on when the committee will consider legislation, and will this be the final time when we take a decision on the committee's view?
Chair, if I may just remind members that the committee agreed to write to DIA and to NIAC to ask if they'll be ready by the 1st of October date. I think otherwise the committee was content, and we haven't received those letters back just yet.
So it's a good point, Militia, and I think probably committee's view is that would be important to get that correspondence back to a sense of the people who are actually going to be kind of delivering this, that they feel obviously in a place that they can. I think probably the department have upped the level of consultation with them and engagement. There's no doubt there, but I think for us to feel confident, it'd be important to hear from the people who are going to deliver. So we'll keep a good eye on it. I'll take any other items that people have off the correspondence. If anyone wants to raise anything. Nobody wants to talk about the Walk Wheel Cycle Trust letter? No?
House of Lords.
Justin.
The letter from SPEC, is it, in terms of free transport for disabled people?
Yep.
And we're the only part of these islands where disabled people do not have free transport?
Yep. Page 217.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Could we write to the Minister as a committee and ask
Opinion?
why and when?
Just to remind members, I think the correspondent was considered a few weeks back. The committee agreed to write to the department about that. We got a letter. The committee received a letter back saying that it was engaging with TransLink. So then the committee agreed to write back to the department to ask how those discussions were going with TransLink and some progress on that. Just if members are content to wait for that reply.
Are you content to wait for a reply, Justin, or are you suggesting a course of action?
I think there should be a degree of urgency around this issue, and that our committee should demonstrate that urgency around this issue.
Okay. And in terms of a specific course of action, obviously we're just waiting for some stuff back. It's whether or not
it's actually only just been received, so that'll be in next week's pack if members are content.
You happy to wait till next week, Justin? Okay, great. Anything else off the core? In that case, I would suggest that the committee notes the remaining items of correspondence. Committee agreed to note. Somebody say noted. Yeah, brilliant. Item 7 is SL1. Just pin your ears back for a battery. SL1, the road races down Rally Order Northern Ireland 2026 initial consideration. At page 246 we have the clerk's memo, 247 the SL1, 250 to 260 documents related to the SL1. The SR is not subject to assembly procedure. The statutory rule will permit the suspension of the right-of-way of traffic on Saturday the 22nd of August 2026 at certain times on certain roads in County Down to allow the Rathfriland Motor Club Limited promoters of the Down Rally to run the 2026 event. I need to seek committee agreement to note the receipt of the SL1 and the proposed statutory rule, which will be published as part of the call for views, and to agree that the SL1 will be considered at this meeting on the 3rd of June 2026, and to indicate that the committee is content that a briefing from officials is not required at this stage. Are committee content? Content. Just while people pin their ears back and listen to me read these out, my daughter Lucy made some toffee squares which are over there. So if whilst you're considering your SL1s and you want to get a coffee square, whilst I read all these out, you're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Lucy. Item 8, SL1, the road races Ulster Rally Order Northern Ireland 2026 initial consideration. At page 262 is the clerk's memo. At page 263 is the SL1, and at pages 266 to 282 are documents related to the SL1. The SR is not subject to assembly procedure. The statutory rule will permit the suspension of the right-of-way of traffic on Friday the 7th of August 2026 and Saturday the 8th of August 2026 between specified times on lengths of a number of roads within County Antrim to allow the Northern Ireland Motor Club Limited, promoters of the Ulster Rally, to run their 2026 event. I need to seek committee agreement to note the receipt of the SL1 and the proposed SR, which will be published as part of the call for views, to agree that the SL1 will be considered at our meeting of the 3rd of June 2026, and to indicate that we are currently content that a briefing from officials is not required at this stage. Is committee content? Item 9, SL1, the U7487 Vicarage Road, Portadown, Abandonment Order, Northern Ireland 2026. At page 284 is the clerk's memo. At page 285 is the SL1, and at pages 288 to 293 are documents that relate to that SL1. The SR is subject to negative resolution. The rule will abandon an area of 913 square metres of superseded road at U7487 Vicarage Road, Portadown, leading to number 55A. The abandonment has been initiated by the department as the road is no longer necessary for road traffic purposes. The abandonment will regularise the situation on the ground. The bed and soil of the area to be abandoned is owned by a private individual who will take responsibility for the land following the abandonment. I need to seek committee agreement to note the receipt of the SL1 and the proposed SR, which will be published as part of a call for views, to agree that the SL1 will be considered at our meeting on the 3rd of June, and to indicate that committee are at this point content that a briefing from officials is not required. Is committee content? Yes. Item 10, SL1, the road races Mid-Antrim 150 Order Northern Ireland 2026 initial consideration. At page 295 is the clerk's memo. At page 296 is the SL1. And at pages 299 to 304 are documents related to the SL1. The proposed rule is not subject to assembly procedure. The statutory rule will permit the suspension of the right-of-way of traffic on Friday the 31st of July between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m, on Saturday the 1st of August 2026 between 8 a.m. and 7 a.m. and 7 p.m, on lengths of a number of roads in and around Clough, County Antrim, to allow the Mid-Antrim 150 Club Limited, promoters of the Mid-Antrim 150, to run the 2026 event. I need to seek agreement to note the receipt of the SL1 and the proposed SR, which will be published as part of the call for views, to indicate that the SL1 will be considered at our meeting of the 3rd of June 2026, and to indicate that committee are currently content that a briefing from officials is not required at this stage. Is committee content?
Content.
Item 11 is SL1, the road races Garron Point Hill Climb Order Northern Ireland 2026. At page 306 is the clerk's memo. At page 307 is the SL1, and at pages 310 to 315 are documents that relate to the SL1. The proposed rule is not subject to assembly procedure. The SR will permit the suspension of the right-of-way of traffic on Saturday the 15th of August 2026 between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. on a length of tar road near Carnlough, County Antrim, to allow the Mid-Antrim Motor Club Limited, promoters of the Garron Point Hill Climb, to run the 2026 event. I need to seek agreement to note the receipt of the SL1 and the proposed SR, which will be published as part of the call for views, to indicate that the SL1 will be considered at its meeting of the 3rd of June 2026, and indicate that committee are currently content that a briefing from officials is not required at this stage. Are committee content? Item 12 is SR 2026-82, the Parking Places Disabled Persons Vehicles Amendment Number 2 Order 2026. At page 317 is the Business Office Letter. At page 318 is the Made Order. This rule is not subject to resolution before the Assembly. The rule will authorise parking places within the unlimited waiting for disabled persons' vehicles by adding car parking places with unlimited waiting in Belfast, 16 bays, Coleraine, 1 bay, Cookstown, 2 bays, Londonderry, 5 bays, Irvingstown, 1 bay, and Newry, 1 bay. In addition, it will also remove parking spaces with unlimited waiting in Belfast, 2 bays, Cookstown, 1 bay, Londonderry, 2 bays, and will amend the description of parking places with unlimited waiting in Londonderry. Are members content to note the statutory rule?
Yep.
Item 13, SR 2026-83, the Schools Part-Time 20 miles per hour Speed Limit Amendment Number 2 Order Northern Ireland 2026. At page 322 is the Business Office Letter. At page 323 is the Made Order. The rule is not subject to resolution before the Assembly. The Department for Infrastructure proposes to make a statutory rule entitled the Schools Part-Time 20 miles per hour Speed Limit Amendment Number 2 Order Northern Ireland 2026, and has submitted an SL1 and associated papers. The proposed rule will apply a 20 mile per hour speed limit to length of roads near certain schools. Are members content to note the statutory rule?
Yes.
Item 14, SR 2026-84. The Roads Speed Limit Order Northern Ireland 2026. At page 326 is the Business Office Letter. At page 327 is the Made Order. The rule is not subject to resolution before the Assembly. The Department for Infrastructure proposes to make a statutory rule entitled the Roads Speed Limit Order Northern Ireland 2026. The proposed rule will apply a 30 mile per hour speed limit to a length of Rossniver Road, Garron, to reduce the vehicle speed on the council on the approach to the village in response to a request from Councillor Anthony Feely. It will apply a 30 miles per hour speed limit and apply a 40 miles per hour speed limit to lengths of Benone Avenue, Limavady, to improve road safety by reducing vehicle speed limit. It will apply a 40 miles per hour speed limit to the length of Clabby Road, Clabby, Sligo Road, Letterbreen, Enniskillen, Ballinlay Road, Moss Side, and Tempo Road, Tempo. The proposals for Clabby and Tempo aim to reduce vehicle speed on the approaches to the villages and are in response to requests from Deborah Erskine, MLA. The proposal for Enniskillen is in response to a request from Councillor Mark Ovens to aim to reduce vehicle speed. The proposal for Moss Side aims to reduce and manage vehicle speed and improve driver behaviour in order to reduce collisions and improve safety for pedestrians. It will extend the length of the existing 40-mile-per-hour speed limit on a length of Cremore Road, Coleraine, after the implementation of a footway cycleway scheme, and revoke a number of other speed limits relating to Clabby Road, Clabby, Cremore Road, Coleraine, Sligo Road, Letterbreen, Enniskillen, Benone Avenue, Limavady, and Doon Road, Tempo, to allow the speed limits specified to take effect. The committee noted receipt of the SL1 and the proposed statutory rule at its meeting on the 4th of March 2026, at which point a call for views was published on the Assembly website. The committee's call for views closed on the 18th of March 2026 and received no responses. No specific issues have been identified with the SRs drafted. Are members content to note the statutory rule? Yep. Item 15, SR 2026/86, the Road Races Tandragee 100 Order, Northern Ireland 2026. At page 331 is the Business Office letter. At page 332 is the Made Order. This rule is not subject to resolution before the Assembly. The Department for Infrastructure proposes to make an SR entitled the Road Races Tandragee 100 Order, Northern Ireland 2026, and has submitted an SL1 and associated papers. The purpose of the SR is to permit the suspension of the right-of-way of traffic on Friday the 26th of June 2026 between 11 a.m. and 9 p.m. and Saturday the 27th of June 2026 between 9:30 a.m. and 7 p.m. on a length of road near Tandragee, County Antrim, to allow the North Antrim Armagh and Car Club Limited, promoters of the Tandragee 100, to run the 2026 event. Are members content to note the statutory rule? Content. Hallelujah. Okay. Item 16 is using a mobile phone whilst driving, consultation on changing the law. And we are going to hear some evidence from the Department of Infrastructure. I will take members to page 337, which is the clerk's memo. 340 is a consultation on widening the law, and that's the cover letter. We have a synopsis of responses on 344. We have a consultation paper on 359. I would like to welcome Dr. Chris Hughes and Deirdre Gallagher from DFI. I would like to seek committee agreement that the evidence is recorded by Hansard, which will be a challenge. We're checking on that.
As long as we have committee agreement, we can go ahead with that.
So we're not going to wait for Hansard? So I would need to just check. Well, can we pause for a couple of minutes? Is that okay? Johnny's saying, keep going. Okay, so this evidence session is theoretically being recorded by Hansard. Chris, Deirdre, it's great to see you again. Floor is yours for an opening statement, and then there will no doubt be a couple of questions. Thanks, Chris.
Chair, good to see you again. Members, thank you very much for the opportunity to brief the committee. I sat here last 2 weeks ago, at which stage I said that we'd had the worst start in deaths in 18 years. That was on the 22nd. 3 days later, we had one of the worst days on our roads that the serving PSNI officers can remember. Where on the 25th, we lost 5 males on the roads, ranging in age from 16 to 61. A passenger, 16. A motorcyclist, age 61. I've got to say, my PSNI colleagues were visibly, they couldn't remember a day like that where 4 fatal collisions had to be attended by the officers who serve the public. And I was speaking to them on Sunday morning. This is really, it was really bad, and it's got even particularly more horrific. So this leads us to what we're talking about this morning, which is mobile phone legislation. The PSNI are unable to say specifically about what the cause of any collision is, but they say it's the fatal 5, and one of the fatal 5 is mobile phones. and that's what we're here to talk to you about today. Mobile phones has been an offence since 2004, 2004, when it first came into operation. So this has been around since 2004. It became enforceable in 2007, 3 penalty points and a fine. The fact that it's an offence has had some impact. So the number of offences, if you look at 2011, there were 10,000 people in or around caught using a mobile phone. That has now reduced to 1,000 at this point in time. So the legislation has had an impact, but the police are still very much going, this is one of the fatal 5. The penalty was increased in 2001 to reflect the gravity of the offence, and it was increased from 6 points and a £200 fine. It was previously £60 fine for the offence. Now, I would caution that in those figures there is an element where it is difficult for police officers sometimes to enforce the offence of using a mobile phone, and instead that they can enforce the offence of not being in proper control. And that's the whole point behind this legislation, is because that offence is difficult to enforce, because since 2004 to now, mobile technology has changed so vastly that the way people interact with their phone isn't what was originally covered in the 2004 legislation. So where we are at this point in time is we have primary legislation. Through regulations, we can update the offence as they have done in other jurisdictions, and that's what this whole consultation was about. The idea is that this will make it easier for police officers to enforce the offence of actually using the mobile phone. The research tells us that you're 4 times more likely to be involved in a collision if you are using a mobile phone. What this consultation does is it offers progress but not perfection, and I would be very clear about that, and the consultation was designed to tease that out. Mobile devices are now so different to what they were, and during the consultation that became apparent to us. So the offence was you needed to be using an interactive, making a phone call or looking something up. But actually people could be streaming a YouTube video, they could be making a YouTube video, and that wouldn't have been covered by the offence, but it would be covered by the offence of not being in proper control. So this makes it easier for the actual fact that you're using a handheld device to be what is covered by the what is covered by the regulations. So this can be done through secondary, the offence can be changed through secondary legislation of regulations. To get a more fundamental change to address the more modern standalone factors that devices have, for example, smartwatch use and stuff like that, would require a change to the primary legislation, which, as we know, is a much slower time. Meanwhile, we know that people are dying in huge rates, and mobile phone use is one of those contributory factors. All the PSNI ones. There was very strong support, Chair and members, for the proposal to tighten the offence so that it to being, rather than having to use the device interactively, you use it in a standalone mode. So you're on your phone, but you're not using it interactively by talking to somebody, but you are browsing a video, you're watching something, you're doing something else, you're typing an email but haven't sent it, those sorts of things. It is distracting you, but it's not currently covered by the regulations that were brought in 2004. Very, very strong support for that. 84% believed that there was supported the measure. There was interesting. We asked about the list. We put in an illustrative list of offences that people would be covered by this. People were very proactive in saying, well, what about this and what about that? And it was really, really good. But that's the kind of stuff that we can't change with regulations without changing the primary, because the way the primary is written. So, as I said at the outset, this is progress, not perfection. We'll be able to get a lot more of the interactive functions that people use. Essentially what it's doing is it's distracting them from driving. Now, if you are charged with the offence of not being in proper control, it is a lesser offence. It attracts 3 penalty points and a £60 fine rather than the 6 penalty points and a £200 fine. So we believe it doesn't reflect the gravity of the offence. It's one of the fatal 5 and it leads to collisions. Chair, I'm going to leave it there, and we really would welcome your views on this, and we're available for questions.
Great, thank you, Chris, for that summary. And look, committee did note, as you will no doubt be aware, that a particular weekend where we lost 5 people in Northern Ireland, and clearly road safety is an ongoing concern. I know both for the Minister very genuinely and also for this committee. You outlined very well the sort of scope of the consultation, and obviously we've all had a look at it. In terms of best practice then, because you did mention jurisdictions, I mean, how do other jurisdictions cope with this?
Okay, so in GB, their legislation was very similar to ours until they made the similar change in 2022.
Right.
So the change that we're hoping to bring in has already taken place there. In the Republic of Ireland, it is slightly different because of their primary legislation. So the offence there is the holding, where we are the holding and the using. Mm-hmm. So they have holding or supporting a phone with another part of the body, say head and shoulder. So it is slightly different.
So in the south, you actually have to have the phone in your hand, or the legislation there is, yes, that you're holding the phone. Yeah.
So in here it's holding and using. Okay. So that's the difference, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fine. In terms of how you then split off technology, so for example, just more from my knowledge, you could still use a phone, and I'm sure, you know, one of my kids could show me how to do this, but you can still talk to a phone, and that's okay. So if you have a phone in the car and it's sitting in the passenger seat and you're driving along and you're talking interactively to someone, or you're using it hands-free, because we all might do that. We've all got probably hands-free in our car. That's still okay, and you can still do that under these new proposals?
This consultation just considered the handheld. It didn't look at anything beyond that. So yeah. A phone really should be secured in the cradle or through the car system as well. But as long as you're not holding the phone.
Okay, so you could still, for example, I have a cradle, I have a passenger seat, which it might sit on, and obviously you can you know, take calls. Maybe you press a button on your steering wheel and the call comes through. That's just to clarify. That sort of stuff is still okay.
Yes, steamed hands-free.
Steamed hands-free. That's fine. Okay. I'm sure there'll be a range of questions here. We'll kick off with Stephen.
Thank you.
The floor is yours, Stephen.
Thank you, folks, for your detailed presentation so far, and welcome back. And would concur, obviously, with the very sad news that we have had even since you've last met. I know you're committed to improving that, as are, you know, many agencies. So just, I suppose, the PSNI, leading with them, what level of engagement have you had with them to date around this, and, you know, are they on the same page as yourselves on this particular one?
They are completely on the same page. They are very welcome and they're very supportive at the most senior levels. They are very, very keen for this legislation. You know, they're very supportive of it.
We've engaged with them throughout the entire process, and we know that this is an issue for them. You know, and you know, our contacts in the police have actually gone out and spoken to, you know, traffic police officers, you know, on the ground, and we know the issue of enforcement and determining whether somebody is using their phone on an interactive basis is a real problem for them. And so some people are, for example, then having the offence of not in proper control, whereas they may have actually been suspected of using their phone and the mobile phone offence, but there wasn't evidence for that.
Yeah, and has there been any data around the rates of mobile phone usage in terms of linkage with accidents that you have at all? Or?
So if you are using a mobile phone, you're 4 times more likely to be involved in a collision than if you are not using a mobile phone.
Yeah, I think in terms of whether it's the principal causation factor, you know, in terms of, for example, you know, injuries or fatalities, I think that the last figure we have was 3. I think it may have been gone back a number of years. But I think one of the problems is actually determining the offence and having evidence. So somebody could be suspected of having committed an offence for that, but if the police don't have enough evidence for that as well. I think one of the issues they also have is sometimes after an accident has happened, the phone may have disappeared or been switched off and things like that. And unless they have, it's usually only if it's a very serious offence, you know, if, in terms of a fatality or a serious injury accident, where they have powers to seize the phone.
That,
So the police would say to us that they can, you know, if you drive on the roads and when you commute on a bus, you see people on their mobile phones.
Yeah.
It's difficult then to establish it. So if somebody's got their head down, they're slow moving in traffic, they're not moving along, you think they're on their mobile phone. But to prove to a level that would be convicted in court that they were interactive at that very point because they could be doing something else is difficult. So it's there is evidence about, as I said, that you're 4 times more likely to be involved. The police are hugely supportive of this. It'll give them extra flexibility in actually addressing the offence. I do believe that probably the figures underrepresent the cause because of the nature of the fact that it is that. So with that caveat, but
I appreciate that. Just to go back to the best practice question, you mentioned some parts of the UK. Just clarity, England, Wales, Scotland, are they all on the same page?
Yes.
Did you send the 2022 change, was it?
Yes.
Okay, and what about beyond the UK then, Europe and globally? Is there any evidence around what works or doesn't work there?
I don't have that with me, but obviously it's one of those ones that in terms of here it's a fatal 5 and it would be the same everywhere. It's about distracted driving and
I presume there's parts of Europe do have laws on this issue, I would imagine.
I would need to look at. I would need to get back to you on that.
I would be interested in finding that if it was some way of getting back to us on that.
Okay.
A bit of a summary of
Very happy to.
Europe even would be interesting because it's similar cars and the mobile phones. It's the same issue really, and we're all ultimately want to make our roads safer. So, no, that's okay for now. Thank you, folks. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Stephen. Harry.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. And Dr. Hughes, you mentioned twice actually that it was progress, that it wasn't perfection.
Yeah.
What do you think perfection actually would be?
So, perfection is where people don't interact with their mobile technology when they're and they fully focused on their driving. The issue here is that whenever you are using a mobile phone, that's a conscious act. So that is something that you don't accidentally lift your phone when you're behind a steering wheel and interact with it. I know that people their speed might drift slightly over a 30 mile an hour. They might be doing 31, 32. To lift a mobile phone is a conscious decision to do that. So until we, I think, address the mindset. So whether you're doing that, and as I said, people were saying, well, what about smartwatches? What about interactive technology? And we get all that. Perfection is probably where drivers are fully focused on the act of driving and taking care. I think that's probably what perfection, such as it might be, would look like.
Yeah. And maybe still allowing hands-free, but that's it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the preference is that you don't do anything that would distract you, but hands-free is there, and this is not part in scope of this. If we can get people to not lift their mobile phones and use them, we will make huge advances in road safety.
And just in terms of the responses, were you content with all the responses, or do you think there could have been others?
I think the responses were really welcomed by us. We're very happy that there's so much support for what we're doing, and I think people raised some very interesting issues as well that we will need to take away and look at, not for the purposes of this particular change. But I think it also reflects that people are really interested. Most people have a mobile phone and are engaged. And I think it's also reflective of the fact that technology has moved on, and so that people who took the time to respond, had actually thought about it. So it was very welcome, actually.
I think thoughtful would be how I would describe the responses. The word just came across as thoughtful and supportive. So
good answers. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Harry. Can I ask, does it apply to drivers in car parks? Junior car park?
If you're using a handheld phone.
While driving?
If
you're parking your car, you're in a car park, would it apply?
You've got your mobile phone in your hand?
Yeah.
There's the one exception.
There is an exemption there for remote capability. It's already been legislated for, that people are using.
What does that mean?
Basically, that people have either an app on their phone that is compatible with their car, or there's a function within their car that they can actually step out and the car can be parked remotely.
It'll parallel park for you.
No.
Yeah. I don't have that car. But,
I didn't know that car existed. So
if
I'm
you're on private land, as a car park would be, as many car parks are, if you're on private land and you commit an offence with a mobile phone in your hand, then the PSNI would be able to deal with you for having a mobile phone in your hand.
Okay, so if you're parking your car and you've got your mobile phone in your hand, even if it's a private land, that's still an offence.
If public have access to it, have access to that was an issue that we had looked at.
Okay.
Actually, so the police have indicated that if it's an area that the public have access to, then they would investigate.
Yes.
Now, for example, later, if later in the day that area was closed off to the public, then it may not be an issue for the police. But if it is one that the public have access to and are using it, then it would be.
Do you commit the fence in your driveway at home?
I think so.
I don't know whether that would constitute a public road. So
Maybe we're just teasing that out.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but I think I'd want to have clarity around that. So if I'm driving out, if I have a long driveway and I'm reversing out in the morning and I pick up my mobile phone and texting, and a police car just drives past or is parked outside my house, is that indictable?
Are you on a public road or
I'm in my driveway.
Okay.
We can ask the
We can ask
PSNI.
questions.
I suspect they would offer you advice. But
It's just when we're making laws, these things are really important.
Absolutely.
So perhaps we will write to the department in terms of getting some further clarity around that.
that's
if that's
really
okay, Chris.
welcome. Thank you.
Question 4, in terms of your Q&A sort of stuff, it references the start-stop engines, and Peter, I'm just going to bring you in 1 second if that's okay. How does the department in the regs, how will it define in control of a car? So, for example, if I was parked somewhere on street car parking, with my engine off, and I was using it, that's fine, okay? If I am in a queue, a long queue going to the Odyssey, I have a car, and I have one that turns the engine off. It does my head in, but it does turn the engine off. You're sitting there, you're not going anywhere, and the car's off. You can still be indicted for this offence in those circumstances. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
And why?
Because you're still in control of the car, you're still driving on a public road.
I'll play devil's advocate here. I'm not driving anywhere and my car's off.
You're not parked in your car and you're not stationary, you're actually in a queue of traffic.
I am stationary and my car's off. The engine's off. And
Your engine is paused, is it not?
No, it's off. It turns the engine off. That's what this new technology does. And so where I'm in a queue, the car's not moving and the car's engine is off.
That's a really helpful point. I think that's a really, really useful. Again, we welcome all this because we're still at the stage of seeking views. So I think that is something I would like to. I think it's helpful to have that for us to look away and clarify. So that's really helpful.
So, Chris, in the sort of Q&A stuff at question 4, the department's answer is no. The proposed changes to the law would still apply when driving a car that turns the engine off when you stop moving. So I think the department's view at this point in time is more or less what Deirdre's suggesting, actually. But I'd like to know why. And again, it's not because I don't agree with that. This is not our job. Our job is to scrutinise what is there. So a car that is in a long queue for the Odyssey, it's a start-up car, the car's not moving, and the car's engine is off, and the driver goes, check my, So currently that's indictable. I just like to know the reasons behind that, and I'm sure there are some.
Just looking at it, apart from the fact that it's a fairly egregious thing to do, is to lift your phone. That is, let's just start with that. That is not okay. If you are doing that, you are surrounded by moving vehicles, and if you are a stationary object whenever other traffic is moving around you, that's clearly a danger. So people behind, around, in front of you will be travelling. You have got forces involved. You have got that. It is I think an offence to be stationary and cause a blockage. I'm not entirely sure what exactly that is, but you'd be causing a blockage and you are distracted. So you're in a public road, you're distracted. I'm not quite sure what the nuances of it.
You're still in control of your car.
You are in control. As soon as you touch that accelerator.
There are a number of exemptions in the current legislation, and that's not one of them.
Yeah. Probably not, because this stuff hadn't been invented whenever the
and
legislation was drafted.
Yeah.
That's actually what I mean. I think it's a really useful feedback for us, because that, being clear about that, I think, is really helpful, because the tech, and it's the point I was making, is the technology just keeps moving. Now, if a police officer sees you with a mobile phone in your hand, you're in a row of traffic, I suspect they'll be having a word with you.
They would, and rightfully so, Chris.
So, but all of these things are welcome, because it helps us clarify as we go forward, and that's just at the point we're at here. So, thank you.
No, thank you, Peter. On the same point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to clarify. You mean just if you're sitting in a lane of traffic and the car's stopped but not turned off, basically?
Or stopped and turned off.
So
it's just it detects, so my car turns itself off.
Yes,
So I think the point I was making, and again, it's not to justify said behaviour, but it's to clarify what the intent of future regs would be, and how they cover off these more specific issues. So you could be in a queue of traffic. Your car is not moving, your car is turned off and the engine is turned off, so you can't actually move your car.
Interestingly, now just to think about that, your ignition is on, your car engine isn't running to save petrol, but your car is not deactivated.
Yes, that could be the
difference. Just
could be the turning point. Yeah,
I'm enjoying myself here. So.
All right, Harry, you got any more?
As far as I know, I mean, I kind of recall, I think the engine must be off and the keys out, literally, even if you're sitting in the lay-by.
Could well be.
Because I mean, I know that you're in charge of your vehicle if you have your keys in your hand and you open the boot. You're deemed to be in charge of your vehicle. Yeah. So, it's
interesting. Good ones.
Sorry, Peter, and thank you for your patience. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really supportive of this, as you'll both know. I sit on the policing board, so I hear the stats from the police. It's why I started the operative group on road safety. So when do we think, what's the timeline for the introduction of the proposed changes flowing on from the consultation?
So this is the final stage of the consultation, is seeking the views from the committee, which we will take as part of the consultation. We will then prepare advice for the Minister. The Minister will take a decision. Given that this is negative resolution regulations, if there was the political will, this could be brought in within this mandate.
Okay. Political will from...
Just if there's if there's the time made available and the support and all the processes gone through. So.
Okay, that's good to hear. You mentioned the Fatal Five, Chris.
Yes.
So I'm going to loosely broaden this out a little bit. And I've asked the Minister this previously as well. Is there any talk within the department about the drink driving changes? Increased penalties for speeding. I know certainly from being on the policing board, it's something that's come up a number of times over the last year or two. Is that still being kicked around? Is that something?
So it's more than being kicked around. I'm glad to say. So the Fatal Five, unhelpfully, has 6 elements to it when you look at it legislatively. So driving while impaired under drink or drugs is one of the Fatal Five. We obviously have to legislate for the 2 of them separately. So though in the Road Safety Action Plan, there's a commitment to launch consultation on drug driving, and that is the target date for that is June, and that will be coming to this committee, all being well, within the next number of weeks. So that's drug driving. Drink driving, we are working our way through the targets in the action.
December 26th for a consultation on reducing the limit.
On that, speeding, we are looking at preparing a consultation on looking at the fines for speeding, because, sorry, let me digress a bit. If you're speeding, currently the fine is £60. If you're parked badly, the fine is £90. So people, by and large, don't get killed by parked cars. It's not one of the Fatal Five. So the police have been, and Sam Donaldson has been a strong advocate for this. So that is in our action plan as well, that we will look at the speeding fine. That will also come to this committee. That's drink, drugs, speeding, mobile phones we hear about, and then the other is driving without attention, and that's your advertising, your graduated driver license, your things like that.
And then obviously you've mentioned the fines there in trigger memory. I think is it in GB, are they double, treble what they presently are now here in Northern Ireland? The fines
or
for the drunk driving, speeding.
I need to get back to you on that.
I
I've enough to soak up this.
That's what Sam had said.
Yeah.
It's, £60 is nothing.
£60 is, yeah. And I think £60 and 3 penalty points. And absolutely, as I said, it's £60. Mobile phone offence is £200 and 6 penalty points. Parking badly is £90. So, I mean,
we're massively lagging behind GB in terms of that. So it's great to hear that the consultation is going to be taking place.
There will be a range
really
of action.
worthwhile hearing that. Thank you.
The mobile phone offence, so it is the same penalty as GB. So
okay.
Yeah.
And then just lastly, because highway code I think was mentioned within our packs, I chair the operating group on active travel. There was a highway code change I think 4 years ago in GB in terms of turning left. That hasn't translated across to Northern Ireland. Are you aware of this? Or
which specific highway code offence is this? Is this to do?
Yeah, so I think it's to give priority to pedestrians for vehicles that are moving and turning left. Those changes made in England, Scotland, and Wales, and that hasn't translated across here.
I will need to look at that and get back to you. But thank you for drawing that to my attention.
Brilliant. If you could, Chris, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Peter. Justin.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Chris. And Deirdre, it's obvious that you're moved and upset by the fatalities on our roads this year. 29 in the first 4 months, which is more than double.
It is.
The number
14 last year.
And you spoke of that weekend where 5 people killed in 4. Just 2 weeks ago, 5 people killed in 4 separate incidents, and the toll that takes on the police. And we all think of the police as droids, so it's important to remember that the police men and women have feelings as well, and to attend those accidents must have been horrendous, and to attend them as part of their job regularly must be horrendous. So thinking about them, and also to commend the Minister for standing shoulder to shoulder with the police shortly thereafter and speaking about the importance of road safety is very, very important. In terms of the numbers, how do we compare on a European context?
So as I said, part of the issue is because the way the offence is defined, I think that it's probably undercounted. So I've already said to Stephen, we'll look at the international figures and get back to you for comparison. In many ways, what we do on this was an existing offence, which the police have said to us is more difficult to implement and hasn't kept up with technology than we did. So if I'm coming with something new, I tend to have cast my net more wide in it, but I will certainly look at at what the international figures are. It may well be that because they're defined differently, they could be different. So to a large extent, we know there's an issue about how they're recorded. Not that they're recorded, it's just what actually it is that progresses its way through court or attracts a fixed penalty fine, because other options are easier to enforce because of the evidential threshold required. They incur a lesser fine and a lesser number of points. So we know, I mean, the reason why we're doing this is because the police and all the police forces around here and in the south, everybody's very clear this is one of the fatal 5 and is causing collisions. I can look at that and helpful to members, we can provide information on that for context.
Yeah, it's important piece of work you're taking on, and best wishes with it, and us as committee will be supporting you all the way.
Yeah.
Thank you, Justin. I haven't had any other indications. Chris and Deirdre, look, thank you for coming in. It's a really important step forward, and you said you got positive feedback from the committee today. So, look, we'll keep an eye out for it.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael, in terms of actions from the evidence that we received from Chris and Deirdre, are there any specifics?
There were a number of things that officials agreed to get back to the committee on. So one was more information on the international context that Mr Dunn was asking for. There was some clarity on whether you're in your driveway up to your mansion, or if and as to why that would why the stop start would be an offence if the car's engine is off, the rationale for that, and then also a couple of other things that we're going to get back to the committee on. The priority turn left that Mr McReynolds raised, and the other one was the how the fines compare with GB, but I think one of the officials answered that. But we can throw that in anyway if committee want to see that in writing.
Okay. Committee agreed to write accordingly? Okay. Great. That takes us to item 17, which is the forward work programme, which is kicking around page 382, 381. And you'll see what we have on, and just to highlight, next week we have some officials coming in around developer contributions. I think we did ask the Minister on that one, but she's sending officials. We will pick up the planning review and then also consider the SUDS bill as well. Our committee content to proceed with the evidence sessions as indicated and reflect any changes today? Yep. Any other business? Does any committee members have any other business? Andrew?
Lucy?
Lucy?
Thank Lucy for the caramel squares. They were quite amazing. So thank you.
Good. Yeah.
For the record, for answer.
For the record, we never got answered, unfortunately. But I will point Lucy to.
I'm sure there'll be hands.
It'll be hand-sorted eventually, so she'll appear somewhere. Okay. Justin.
I propose that we as committee write to Lucy and thank her for
Second.
delicious treats and commend her cooking capabilities.
Caramel squares. So our committee agreed?
Agreed.
Okay, so clerk will draft a letter to Lucy thanking her for the caramel squares.
Just if I may, Chair, just
Yep.
to let members know that there's the Active Travel Challenge, the annual event that Translink have out on the apron, starting at 12 till 2
okay.
Today, if members are interested in going along to that.
That's very useful. Thanks, Michael. Normally we don't get committee finished until about 1:30. This is an unusual day for us, so it does open up possibilities that we could get out and see that. No other business has been indicated. In that case, item 19 is the date, time and location of the next meeting. Just to inform members that the next meeting will take place at 10 a.m. on Wednesday the 13th of May 2026 in room 29, Parliament Buildings. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting.
Committee Room 29, sound. 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 Committee Room 29, Sound.